And hello, movie lovers. So I'm so sorry about the wait. I had some stuff that I actually had to look up and things like that for my notes. But we're here. I have Abby here from Motor City Nerds. It's great to actually have her back. And she's actually been dearly missed by the channel and by everybody. So it's great to have her on. So without further ado, let's go on ahead. Let's get on with some movie news. And hey, Abby, how you been doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good, but I'm so happy to be back. I really am. I'm so excited to be back.
It's great to have you back. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, of course.
Thank you.
And, today we actually had a lot of news that dropped 3 days ago today. So I'm doing a mixed bag of everything that I've seen over the past couple of days. Because I had a feeling that we were going to be getting some more James Gunn movie news and stuff like that, which we covered last Friday. And I also pointed out the fact that we need, I bet 2-1 that Jason Momoa is going to be not going to be playing Aquaman anymore. He's going to be playing Lobo. And that was just me going on a hunch. And then all of a sudden I wind up being right about that.
That's a huge, there's a lot of big things that we're going to talk about, but that's gigantic if he really is.
It really is if you think about it.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, Aquaman was what? It was one of the top grossing movies when it came out and everything. And it's like, to step down, there's either problems or a plan.
Well, we're going to get into that part on what's actually going on at Warner Brothers. It has everything to do with James Gunn and also Saffron as well. But here's the thing, though. I've always said this. 4 years ago, I made a YouTube video about how badly I want Jason Momoa to be Lobo. And then Michael Bay was originally supposed to be attached to direct Lobo, which I hope to God no, that doesn't happen. But that was 4 years ago. That doesn't even. So I'm not even thinking that that's going to happen. But
Right.
But anyways, let's go on ahead. Let's go into the report. I want to give some context into everything. So the future of DC Studios. And by the way, this comes from comingsoon.net. So the future of DC Studios is unknown and up in the air. But according to the report, that the Hollywood Reporter and actor Jason Momoa's future in the DCU might feature a lot of change. In an extensive report, the THR, the future of the DC universe, is said to remain in flux, with the new CEOs, James Gunn and Peter Safran, looking to make some huge changes. Chief among them, according to the report, is to have no Aquaman films and instead use Jason Momoa in another role as the DC's anti-hero Lobo. The report notes that Momoa could potentially wrap up playing the underwater hero after he stars as Aquaman in the upcoming sequel Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which releases on December 25th, 2023. After the Momoa could transition into the character of Lobo, a foul-mounted alien that works as an interstellar mercenary and bounty hunter. While Lobo has not been utilized much in live-action properties, his outside character does fit with the type of character Gunn has worked with in the past comic book films, including the members of the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad. Speaking to the report, Gunn wouldn't confirm what was or wasn't true, but did say that some of what was on it was true. And some wasn't, and some it was half true, while some just hasn't been decided yet. By the creative duo, at the end of this tweet thread, Gunn said that he couldn't share much more on the future of the DCU, as they still have much more to think about as they figure out how to move forward. So, this is something that I'm very excited about.
They're really throwing James Gunn at everything. But I will say this, as soon as you said it, now I'll admit, I don't know a ton about this character. John loves this character. But the second you say things like foul-mouthed anti-hero, James Gunn, yeah, no, he kills it when it comes to those characters. So I can totally see why. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. But I'm just like, man, let's not run James Gunn into the ground.
Exactly. But here's the thing, though. When it comes down to Lobo, I think that you need someone like James Gunn to actually understand who Lobo is. Lobo is the main man.
Okay.
And he was actually the last person on his planet, and because he accidentally killed everybody, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Mad Vegeta vibes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay. Yeah, he's giving me like Vegeta vibes. Like he's a badass that can mouth off really good and is the last of his kind.
Exactly. And also, too, another thing I want to mention, too, if anybody's wondering, The Last Caesarian is actually the name of the Lobo graphic novel that I strongly recommend everybody to read. Of course, I also read the classic comics that I bought a couple of years back. But to know that Jason Momoa is going to be attached to play this character possibly gives me hope, because I always said this. He belongs as Lobo. He does not belong as Arthur, even though I like him as Arthur, even though he actually has the physicality, and also, too, the character of the New 52 comics is also kind of like Jason Momoa and stuff like that. I don't know if you've read anything with the New 52 comics or anything, or familiar with it.
No, but I will say this about Jason Momoa. I feel like people have kind of forgotten he is pretty good at acting. Like, he's not just a hey bud kind of guy, but he can do both of those very well. He does both extremely well. So I mean, of course I like him as Aquaman, but I always thought that was more of a, you're really popping right now, let's shove him into this because it's our next thing coming out. And it wasn't like I thought this character would be perfect for him. This character sounds like it's perfect for him.
It's made for him because of the fact he has the physique. Not only that, but even if you put the Lobo makeup,
like for real.
That's what I was about to say. And even here's another thing: I was either going to choose him or Norman Reigns as Lobo, but I'd rather Jason Momoa, even though they're cousins. But I'd rather have him as Lobo.
I did not know that.
Yep.
But no, the second I read your thumbnail, I was just like I said, I might not know about this character very much, but I know who it is, and I was like, oh my god, how come I never put that? How come nobody said that before? He literally looks like him. Like, that's kind of rare.
Well, even if you look at Game of Thrones, you can see the look.
Oh yeah,
of Lobo within him.
I always bring up Game of Thrones, so I try to avoid it sometimes. Where I'm like, but that was what I was going to say a minute ago. Is like, he plays a scary warlord. I think people forget that he plays a scary warlord.
Also, too, Lobo's a drunkard. He's a womanizer and everything, and this actually fits in perfectly what Jason Momoa actually plays. So I'm thinking that this is actually a good fit for him. Everybody's like, well, I want him as Arthur. Well, I said, look, at that time, the New 52 comics were actually canon. The New 52, remember back in the day when everybody used to make fun of Aquaman and stuff like that? Well, the New 52 comics changed all that to where he was basically a badass.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I did dabble in some of this. I just don't know. I don't like to say things with comics unless I'm like for sure. But no, I remember the changes to Aquaman. I remember when that was becoming a thing, and I don't mind that. I mean, Aquaman has some cool powers, but I really do feel like they just said, hey, you're popping right now. Let's get him into the DC movies, and this is our next one coming out. I think Jason Momoa could be a charismatic anybody, but this character, it seems like not only is it kind of like him, which he excels at, but it sounds like there's enough differences here that he might be able to show off some acting chops for sure.
I think so too. And this also gives him a chance to interact with probably Harley Quinn, because there is a Lobo and Harley Quinn comic that I read.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I was just thinking like Suicide Squad, James Gunn. Okay, this would all tie in really well together.
Right. And also, too, if you actually put James Gunn behind the camera to direct a Lobo movie, and not only direct it, but write it, I think it will actually flow through better if it was actually directed by James Gunn, because of the fact, look at Peacemaker, look at those movies, and also the Suicide Squad movie, which you had these over-the-top underground characters that nobody even heard of. And look what he did. He managed to basically make us care about that. Right.
That shocked me. It genuinely did. I mean, I wasn't too worried about it, but I was like, there's no way I'm going to care about any of these randos. There's no way. There's no possible way. And by the end of the movie, I really did. And that's something that he does excel at, is the teams I was just saying this with on my Guardians reaction. I was like, it matters when you have a cohesive team that all works well together, and James Gunn knows how to run a ship. He knows how to keep it together. He knows how to, he's worked with these people before, or at least in the family of people. And that matters. And when people know we can trust you to go ahead with this, it matters.
Most definitely. And okay, so speaking of James Gunn, this is what he told us today. And this is what he ended up saying. He said James Gunn gives DC Universe update amid conflicting reports because of what happened later on. But this is actually coming from comingsoon.net as well. Following various reports about what the future of DC Studios may look like, new CEO James Gunn took to Twitter to share some of his plans for the future hold. In a series of tweets on Thursday, Gunn noted that he was well aware that he was entering into a fractious environment when he and Peter Safran took over DC Studios. Gunn also said that there would be an unavoidable transition period as the duo came together to form what will be the next 10 years of stories that Warner Brothers Discovery helps make. In the end, Gunn said he knows they won't make every single person happy, but he hopes fans understand the duo are working in service of the story and service of the DC characters and know and love. And also too, when you can check out the tweets below, and then he also says Peter Knight chose to helm DC Studios, knowing we are coming into a fractious environment, both in the stories being told in the audiences itself. And there would be an unavoidable transition period as we moved into telling a cohesive story across film, TV, animation, and gaming, Gunn said in his tweets. But in the end, the drawbacks of this transition period were dwarfed by the creative possibilities and the opportunity to build upon what has worked in a DC so far to help re-identify what has not. And then Gunn's comments come in response to an article of the Hollywood Reporter on Wednesday, which noted quite a few things, including that the planned Wonder Woman 3 would no longer be happening. Henry Cavill will be out again as Superman. The rumored sequels to Man of Steel and Black Adam may not be happening, and that Jason Momoa might be, like we said, transitioning from Aquaman instead of the anti-hero Lobo.
Yes. This is ballsy. But then again, so wait, okay. Maybe I should have done a little bit more research before hopping on here. Are you telling me that James Gunn and Safran are now heads of DC?
Yeah.
Everything?
Yep.
Now, I will make this remark because I've been saying this about Marvel with Kevin Feige. I'm like, he needs to find his, who's George Lucas's little protege.
Well,
having two people tag team it, that will be helpful. I think taking these big behemoths on for one person is too much. It is too much.
And I think you need two people to oversee the property, especially with the giant mess WB has been and DC's been in the last couple of years. I've always said it, that they've been like minions reacting to everything that they see. And we're like, oh, that would be a good idea. So guess what? We're going to go on ahead and greenlight Batgirl. Oh, wait, we're going to go on ahead and greenlight these. We're going to greenlight everything.
Right. No, I think that this is super smart. I'm just kind of shocked that they, not a producer, a director, in which I think that's also really smart because you have, of course, there's going to be like a little bit of friction, of course, when any groups are coming together to work. You know, everybody has a different. It doesn't mean that it's World War III over there. It just means we know we're coming together. There's going to have to be compromises, yada yada yada. But to have a actual director a part of that is huge because then you have somebody who actually knows it. It's the same as any workplace and going like, let's talk to the people on the floor and get their take on it. That's a big thing to do.
Exactly. And here's the thing, though. Everybody's like, well, I don't like what Gunn is doing. I don't like what Safran's doing. I said, I'm loving it. Because here's the thing. Don't get me wrong. I love Aquaman. I love Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Yes, I'm sad to see her go. But at the same time, I understand Hollywood logic. I understand what may have worked for one thing may not have worked anymore. And also, too, especially, and we're going to get into it a little bit in a few minutes with Wonder Woman 3 on what I think. But I'm just going to put a little small hyphen in there where basically I'm just going to say this. I understand from the studio's perspective instead of the fanboy perspective, because the fanboy in me is sad. But from the studio's perspective, I get it. But I'll talk about that in a few minutes, why I get it.
No, I'm sure you deal with this too, because I always have to break this down all the time where I'm like, the fan part of my brain is going, I love this or I hate this or whatever it is. But then the film nerd in me is going, they're really not doing this well, or they're doing this very well, or whatever it is. And it's just a very conflicting thing when you try to cover things the way we do, because we love all this stuff. But then there's a part of us that's like, but we know how the industry works and we know how cameras work. And sometimes things have to change up. We also have, and I think Marvel has suffered from this. You have to remember that people get older. And I know DC is going for like an older, group as their fans, but it's like, yeah, guess what? Some kid just turned 13, 14, and now you have a whole new group coming up, and this will be new to them, and whatever it is, or even a little kid, whatever, you know what I mean? But it's
Right.
like people get, and I do think Marvel is kind of hip to that now of, your demographics getting older. And not just us want to see these people do things, but they are going to want to see those things too.
Exactly, and also too, this is like us doing our YouTube channel, right? Where yeah, we have our original audience that we always have and stuff like that, but we also have to realize too, there's going to be new audiences coming in to watch us. So
Yep.
therefore, we have to change and evolve with the audience and everything, and also too at the same time trying to figure out the pattern for us to be able to keep the subscribers that we have. So in retrospective, it also goes hand in hand with Warner Brothers and as well. Where it's like, okay, so we have this division between comic book fans and also moviegoers itself, casual moviegoers. So how do we keep our comic book fans and our moviegoers happy at the same time? And can we accomplish that even though we know that we cannot keep everyone happy? And that's what James Gunn is trying to say. We're not here to make people happy. We're here to try and put a cohesive story together.
And honestly, in that statement, there's a couple things in there that really surprised me. And I love Henry Cavill. I think Henry Cavill was, I mean, that's another one. You literally look like that character. I love him as Superman. I love Gal Gadot. I do. But like we said, I understand why we would have to change people up. But the big one that really shocks me is throwing in the word gaming. You're throwing in gaming also? That's a big statement to make.
And you see, we talked about this last Friday with Chris and Josh last week. And the thing that I'm apprehensive about is the fact that it's too much for a casual moviegoer, like for someone like my brother-in-law. And I could just imagine him going, wait, not only do I have to read the comics, not only do I have to play the video games and watch the TV series, but now I have to do all that in order to go ahead and watch a movie.
Right.
And I think it's just going to be too much of a brain overload to the point where you are also handcuffing your writers and your as well to where you're not given the creative freedom that you want to let these characters breathe on their own without having to say, well, this is canon with this, that canon is with everything, to the point where you have like a giant ice cream freeze.
Yep.
And
now, I don't necessarily hate it, but I'm like, okay, so now as long as they're cool, I'm cool with that. But are you just gonna? I think it would work better as long as they just say like, haha, they're in canon, but it's a multiverse. And so it's like, okay, you can do your own thing, which I think this could be a really cool thing to do. But like you said, this could just be either to the average viewer, they're going to think I have to know all this when
it's like it's like doing homework. It's like,
exactly. Yeah.
And that's also too why Fantastic Beasts, not the third one, but the second one wasn't as successful because I remember watching a movie reviewer from Schmoes Know, Mark Ellis. He's like, wait, I didn't know I had to take a Harry Potter quiz in order for me to watch this Harry Potter spinoff.
Yep. No, that was literally the group chat I sent out to people was, we will love this, but regular people are going to be like, where are we? What are we? What's going on here? But yeah, when it starts to feel like homework, like you said, then it kind of takes the fun out of it. I just feel like I can't believe how many things they said in this statement. I'm like, where do I start with this? Like I said, the gaming part, and like you were saying with writers, I think a lot of people forget, like, these people are still artists that want to do, just because they work for a huge thing or a popular thing doesn't mean they still don't want the freedom to do what they love. And like, I always use Jojo Rabbit as an example. I'm like, do you think that he would have been able to do that if he didn't do Thor Ragnarok? I was like, do you think this man just walked into a room and was like, hey, I really want to do this Nazi movie. Is that cool? And they're probably like,
well, no. I think you get away with it because of the fact he's Jewish. If there was like anybody else that was going to do it,
oh yeah,
I think that would say no.
Flown if he didn't get to do this big, huge, popular pop
thing. And then you're right.
Like, it just is a perfect example of this guy's still an artist. Yeah, I love Thor Ragnarok. I'm not saying that's not art, but I'm just like, yeah, do your big popular thing, then go back to this. But these writers, they still want to write and do the thing that they love. So I don't want anybody to get tired out, I guess. All around, I don't want people to get tired out because I feel like that's what Kevin Feige's struggling with. I think Kevin Feige needs a vacation.
I think he's overloaded himself to the point where he doesn't know what way to turn. Yeah. Especially whenever he's going through the editing people and telling them, hey, look, you need to hurry up and edit this and that and everything else. And now I heard a report saying that he's going to focus on basically quality over quantity.
Good.
And I think also
that's why I think George Lucas is so lucky to have found Dave Filoni. And I'm not like a huge Star Wars person. Like I love it, but I don't know it all.
it's like, right.
But this guy, the fandom knows we can trust this guy. And so it's just like, that's why I kept saying, I'm like, if he could find his Dave Filoni where he was like, I can do this over here, but I'm a control freak too, where I'm like, no, I'll just do it myself because I'll do it right. And it's like, if Kevin Feige could find his I really care person and could hand that off and not be a control freak over the series, let's say, I think he'd be, I think all of Marvel would be better off for it.
I agree. And also too, Saffron's been a producer for a couple of big franchises and stuff like that too. The Conjuring movies.
Okay.
He's also produced The Rocketeer back in the 90s and a couple of other credits to his name.
Okay. No, this seems to me like complete fresh legs, which I like to hear. Like that doesn't bother me at all. Like sometimes, you want seasoned veterans on something, but it's like this company is an entire seasoned veteran.
Exactly.
So I'm not that, but I like hearing that. And to me, it says, do you want to know what? We're going to give people a shot. I know James Gunn and them are huge people, but still like we're giving them a shot at something that is not really in their wheelhouse.
Exactly. And another thing I want to mention is this, okay? So Henry Cavill's, if he's out of as Man of Steel, because everybody's been wanting Man of Steel too, including myself.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing. Everybody's like, well, he quit Witcher to be in Man of Steel. I said, no. There's a couple of rumors that's going around where basically he quit Witcher because of the direction that Witcher was going in, because it was falling away from the books and the source material.
He's a nerd.
And yes, he's a big nerd.
He's a big
nerd. Whenever he saw that, he's like, well, let's just get the lesser known Hemsworth guy to do my job, and I'll go on ahead and be Man of Steel if that opportunity arises.
Yeah.
And, I would love for Henry to come back to reprise his role as Superman. I thought he did a fantastic job.
Oh,
now, whether or not you didn't like Man of Steel, which I did, but more people have issues with it. But you can't really blame Henry's acting and stuff like that either, because you can actually just, if you don't like the writing, you don't like the writing.
I don't blame. Yeah, exactly. I don't blame. I think people forget how many people work on things, and it's like there's directors, there's this, and I love Henry Cavill as Superman. I had my issues with Man of Steel, but honestly, I haven't rewatched it in a long time. But I didn't hate it. I remember when coming out of that, and people all really did not like it, and I was like, I had a couple little qualms with it, but other than that, I love him as Superman, and I
thoroughly enjoyed it because of this reason. It's how we would actually react if an alien came down from Earth and seeing this powerful being. We would say, "Oh, thank you for saving us. Woe to you for being in the sky."
Out.
But yeah,
we'd be freaking out. We'd be
freaking
out. We'd be going, get rid of it. What is that? We don't trust it. Dear God, we can't even handle them changing the looks of characters in fake movies. What are we going to do if an alien lands? Jesus.
And another thing that I liked about Man of Steel as well was you have him being vulnerable, which I love Christopher Reeves, but he never played the character to where he felt like he was more human and questioning his own motives and wondering his way of life. With Henry Cavill, he's questioning every single thing he's doing, especially the part with him and Kevin Costner's part. So should I just go ahead and let everyone drown on the bus? And Kevin Costner goes, maybe. But everyone's like, oh, that's so cool. I'm like, well, how would you feel if you adopted this kid who happens to be alien?
Yeah, and I was going to say, and it's his son. It's his son. And I thought, and you're absolutely right. I didn't really think about it that way. And he does bring a humanity to Superman that others have not, for sure. And especially with his family, especially with his mom and dad. And now that you're saying that scene over, the first thing I thought of was, it's my son. And I'm still going to worry about him and stress about him and be like, there's an overall bigger picture here. But when it comes down to it, it's like, I don't know what I'm dealing with. And this is my kid. And I love him and I'm worried. And I never thought about that. He does. He brings and of course, Christopher Reeves kills it. But He does. He brings a humanity to Superman. Henry Cavill just reminds me of somebody that I would run into him and he would be just as nice and kind in person. And that's
I can imagine. And okay, so which one do you want to do? Want to do the Wonder Woman 3 getting canned, or do you want to talk about the Flash being moved up?
What is going on with the Flash?
Okay.
Tell me about the Flash. What's happening with this menace?
So I've been hearing some good things revolving around the Flash.
Oh, good.
Movie. The movie itself is fantastic based off of people that I've been hearing.
Okay. I like how they took our side note. I like how they took our advice weeks later and are like, we're getting him help. That's all we wanted. We were like,
Right.
oh, what was going on here? We don't even need to know. Just get them in. I don't care. Warner Brothers. We all know there's something weird happening, but what's going on with this movie, John?
Okay, so this is coming from IGN, and Warner Brothers Discovery has pushed forward the release date of The Flash. The studio announced that The Flash will now premiere in theaters on June 16th, 2023, a week earlier than its previous announced June 23rd, 2023 release date. This is likely to avoid Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which finally announced it will premiere on June 30th. The Flash had dodged time getting to the movie theaters from multiple directors' searches, delays, and Star Ezra legal controversies, including arrests and announcements that they will seek help for mental health issues, like you and I talked about, Abby. It doesn't say that in the report, though, that you and I talked about it. But Miller is a holdover of the DCEU as they played the character starting in Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. The solo movie has long been expected to adapt the Flashpoint storyline and eventually reconfigure the DC universe. The alternate timeline storyline would explain why both Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton can be in The Flash, both playing different versions of Batman. The movie also includes Sasha Calle as Supergirl. It's unclear what the DC universe will look like once The Flash finally premieres and potentially rewrites the DC universe. The movie, which has resisted calls and cancellations after Miller's arrest, and could set the stage nicely for a clean slate that will allow new DC co-presidents James Gunn and Peter Safran to imprint their own designs on the DC universe.
Okay. Now, okay, because at first I was like, just throw Michael Keaton at us, and now I'm like, you're throwing everybody at us.
Right.
They're throwing everything, and to even move it up a day is a lot because this has had, to say the least, a troubled production.
Hey, baby. Thank you for saying hi to me. But, what I was going to say was this, though, too, okay? So, we were talking about Henry Cavill as out as Superman and all the cancellations with Wonder Woman and things like that, right? So, it would make sense because they're doing the Flashpoint movie to reboot everything. So, therefore, you wouldn't need those set characters anymore or those actors anymore to play those roles. So therefore, you would need to do a reset, and what better way to reset it than with the Flash? And from what I'm saying is this: from test screenings, even though everybody said, "Oh, everybody got a standing ovation over Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and stuff like that," I've been hearing from people on a podcast I listen to that's very close to the industry, and they're saying that they have standing ovation. Well, they love the story. And it's great. It's fantastic. They know what they have in front of them, which is also why they don't want to go ahead and just put it in a vault and never see it again, see the light of day. Right. So I'm thinking that how they're going to do this is I think they're going to do the PR around Michael Keaton and possibly maybe Ben Affleck, but more than likely,
it's a huge thing to drop. Right. You're going to put them. You're going to give us both of them. Okay, you're absolutely right though. They're going to focus on Batman,
right, instead of focusing on Ezra Miller. And it will also get this. It would actually they already spent probably close to $250 million just saying for filming this movie, and for them to recast him and then reshoot him, they're going to spend even more money to do all that. So therefore, they have no choice but to go ahead and do this with Ezra. So what better way to go ahead and get the focus off of him than have your nostalgia of the 80s with Michael Keaton and let him be the forefront to promote the Flash movie.
Yep.
And then if you want to have a present day look of this film, which would be your Ben Affleck Batman, You can have him also be promoting this film, and you can even probably have Michael Keaton and them to get in him together promoting it.
Fandom in itself is the
Right.
the Batfleck people. There's a big audience for that too, and I just realized this with you saying that is that who in this group has also had to do a full reset with something. James Gunn, he did that with the Suicide Squad. He did a full reset, a full
Like a soft reboot is basically what it was.
Exactly, but this is that on a huge scale.
Deeper scale, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, he kind of he nailed it last time. Let's see if he can do it and on a bigger scale. And I'm more intrigued now. And especially hearing after how good The Flash is. If it's that good, because I'm not going to be mad at people. Like I was saying, so many people work on something, and I knew this movie was almost done. And so I was just like, the fact that one person could affect everybody isn't cool to me. So I totally
especially when it's the lead role and not someone that's just happens to be like sitting in the background,
right.
drinking a Coke, or someone that is 100%. A co-star.
Exactly.
This is your lead actor, so therefore he's causing problems. He's Dennis the Menace going around on a tour.
No, for sure. And that's why I was like, I don't want it to get canned. Like, that's not cool to me. And then I was just like, but then again, I don't want this guy to not whatever, But then I'm just like, I'm glad to hear that it's still happening. I'm shocked that they're even saying that they're moving it up at all, even a day. So a week is like, okay, well then you guys, it's got to be good if they're sticking to their guns this hard.
Pun intended.
Oh, yes.
But okay, so
and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not that upset with them canning the third Wonder Woman.
Okay, I'm gonna get to that now. I'm getting to it now.
Is that bad to say?
No, because here's the thing. I'm gonna let me go ahead and go with the report, and I'll tell you why I'm not that sad over it or anything like that either. So hold on to that thought for a minute. So the Hollywood Reporter actually calls in the rebirth of DC Genesis, maybe call it Identity Crisis or Flashpoint. These titles of past DC Comics event series adapt to describe the state of Warner Brothers DC movies, which are on the cusp of a new era, but not before a potentially messy transition period. A cleaning of the slate is common when a new executive team, like we talked about, is put in place to run a studio or division, but there is likely little precedent for the amount of Clorox James Gunn and Peter Safran could spray as they prepare to launch the DC studios and guide superhero movies for the next half decade and beyond. So let me go on ahead and go through. The duo in recent days flew back to Los Angeles from the snowy city of Aspen, Colorado, where they were huddled in a deep planning and now, like holy figures coming down from the mountaintops, have sets of commandments or a DC Bible in hand, or at least a working blueprint. Gunn and Safran are expected to meet next week with David Zaslav, the Warner Brothers Discovery CEO who is radically reshaping the media company and who hired the duo in October to lead the newly launched film and TV division. The pair will unveil Zaslav's plan that is expected to lay out their vision, although much of their plan, which insiders paint as still work in progress and one that has yet to be approved, it's being kept deep in a bat cave. Details are several possible paths forward trickling out, and at least one path not being taken as also has been revealed. Multiple sources tell the Hollywood Reporters that Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 is not moving forward and is considered dead incarnation. And sources say that Jenkins recently submitted her treatment co-written with Jeff Johns and the Gunn and Safran, as well as Warner Brothers co-chairs and co-CEOs Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abbey broke the news to the filmmakers, telling her the project as it stood did not fit in with the new but still unfolding plans. Jenkins directed and co-wrote the previous two movies starring Gal Gadot and released in 2017 and 2020. No decision has been made about the next steps.
Okay, here's what I was going to say. I think that Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot, I think they excelled in having a internal story. But once we get to connecting it all, it's not going to work as much. I'm not hating. I loved Wonder Woman. I really did too.
I like the very first one.
Yes, and then I feel like 2 was when they were like, "Here comes the company, and here comes what we want, and here comes what we need, and all these things, and then remember this and that," and I'm like, "I don't think that Patty Jenkins likes this." Like, you could just feel it, where it was like, it didn't feel like it had the same heart in it that the first one
I
did.
think that she did have the best intentions for the film.
Oh, 100%,
And
100%.
I
I think
think
she
that
loves the character.
right, she loves the character. I think it was her passion, and I also still felt like her love was there. It was the writing that was the problem with the film, and the directions that she took within that script. That was the problem.
Yep. No,
And
I feel like there was too many. I don't know what the word is for it, but it was almost like she was like, and I don't know because I wasn't there, but it was almost like, fine, like I'll just compromise with whatever this, whatever that, and
well, don't forget,
it was not fully hers like the first one was.
no, because even if you look at the back of the old regime before Zaslav came in, the old regime was like, no, it's either our way or no way. And then even if you hired someone, let's say for instance that you hired me to paint a house, Abby, right? And I tell you, I'm gonna paint it. You want it blue? No problem. I'll paint it blue. Me and my painters will paint it blue for you. We'll do a fantastic job. Then what do? You go on ahead, you get a paintbrush the next day, and you decide to paint with us because you think that you can do a better job than the person that you hired. So
Right.
therefore, the painter is like, what the hell are you doing? You hired us for a specific job, and here you are taking control. So what's the point of me doing this? So you know what? I'm just going to go on ahead and do what
Yeah.
you want me to do, and you can just tag along with me. So that's what it
exactly
feels
how
like.
it felt. Yep, that's a great way to put it. That's exactly how it felt. That's a perfect analogy for it.
But you see, this is where this is what I told Charlie, and this is also what I told some of my friends. I said, I'm okay with them doing this,
Yeah.
canceling the third one, because of the fact that it wasn't successful with the second movie, with 84. And it was poorly received by movie-going audiences, but not only movie-going audiences, but also a split and shift in the critics and also movie-going audiences alike. It's different if the shift is between the movie critics, because then you can also still say, oh, look, the audience score is still great.
Right.
So therefore, I don't have to listen to the critics. But it's bad when there's a split where it's between the movie critics and the movie-going audience.
Yeah.
And it's sad for me because you know me, I had that Wonder Woman 1984 poster in my old house.
Yeah.
And I love Gal. I love Gal Gadot to death. She's a beautiful woman. I believe that she played Wonder Woman great. And you know, and then like we were talking about earlier, it's like we know it's sad and we understand why. It's Hollywood. It's all part of the thing here. If it doesn't meet with the structure that Gunn is going for, then you have no choice but to say goodbye to the old way of actually handling the property that it once was. And the very first movie was very popular and it was great. I enjoyed it thoroughly. And another thing too I want to mention is
How
this.
much I loved the first one. Like I
Me
slept
too.
on it for a minute, and then I remember I was at my old apartment sitting by myself, and I was just like, "Do you know what? I'm going to crank out Wonder Woman." And I was like in tears at points, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is very, very good." Like this is, and I loved it. I really did. So it's like part of me is like, "Oh yeah, I wish," but then the other part of me is going, "I really don't mind them stopping this." And I'd
Same.
rather have production money go to something new
Same
than waste
here.
my time and waste all of our time and waste their time.
Exactly. And that's how I feel though too. I actually do feel that way. And it's like I would. This was also what I said when I'm the first broke too. Was this? I was like, okay, I thought that they would at least give them a second chance since the first one was really good and profitable for the
Yeah.
company. And it was like, okay, well, you know what, Patty, you know what, Gal, you did a great job with the first one. Yes, you slipped on the second film, but we'll give you a second chance to prove yourselves. But considering the fact it doesn't go with the structure of the 4-year plan that Gunn has and planned and in store for us, then I have to say, especially with the reboot of the Flash, you know, it's hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
Yeah. No, I honestly, like I said, I'm more geeked now about the because at first it was just okay, Ezra Miller, stop being a menace because we want to see the Flash. But now I'm like, if it's this good and things are hinging on it this much, it kind of gets me hyped for it. And I'm not the hugest Flash fan.
I like the Flash, but Flash was never my favorite DC character.
Yeah, he's cool. He's there. I
Yeah,
know people that really, really love the Flash, and
me too.
they're really excited for this movie, and they've been excited for a Flash movie. So I'm pumped for them. But
Me too.
this has like the film part of me excited, where I'm like, what did you guys do here that is so astounding that you are standing, especially in today's climate, standing by this so hard? Because it's then it has to be. Is it Michael Keaton? Because I think part of it might be Michael Keaton. I'm just saying, none of us are going to get mad at Michael Keaton. We're going to be like,
No,
Michael Keaton's here though.
that's
So I can't
that's
be
what
too
I'm
mad.
here for. He's the headliner for me for this.
Exactly. I'm excited now. Now these are big, huge announcements to be making, and I feel like James Gunn. They're saying they're not being very like informative, but these are once you get past like reading it, it's like these are huge things to say. Like I said with like the gaming part, I'm like, oh, okay, and then I was like, wait, hold up, gaming, and then I'm like, wait, these are huge things to be saying.
Exactly.
And like you're giving us info on Ezra Miller, you're giving us info on we're working together right now. We're probably going to can this. Like these are big, huge statements, and I feel like this isn't James Gunn's first rodeo. I mean, it is kind of in this role.
I think he learned a lot from with Kevin Feige.
Yes,
I think he learned a lot from him.
and it probably doesn't hurt to be buddies with him and be like, what do I do, bud? And
Exactly.
with them trying to, which it's like I remember if you're not old enough, I remember when the jokes he was making on Twitter were popping, and guess what? Whatever, I never thought. What I'm trying to say is, I get why people were upset. I do. But at the same time, he went through a mini like cancellation. So it's like you already got through that. So you know how that kind of goes. You got Kevin Feige to call when you're like, okay,
Well,
how do I handle this? And you got you have experience.
exactly.
I think that's smart.
And I also said this in my video whenever it got first announced that they were going to be the CEO and stuff like that. I said, it's good to have two people in the pocket to where they can basically share the same stress level. It's kind of like when the Russo brothers did the Civil War movies, Captain America Civil War.
So good.
Right, because they were able to share the stress level and not being laid up on one person. So that's one thing that James Gunn has.
It's funny that you say that because I was literally trying to explain that to somebody at work last week who we eventually want to take over. And I was like, listen, bud, I was like, where our team leader is great at building it. Fantastic. Nobody's better than him. Abby's good with the people. And combined, each other's weaknesses and strengths are a plus. It's not always a negative to say like they can do this but I can't, or they can do this but I can't. Those complementary things normally help a group succeed at something. So I'm happy to hear that I think 3 would be a crowd. I think 3 would be too much, but 2 I think this is the smartest move they've made.
I think so too. So now we're moving away from the comic book stuff and WB, because I know I've been talking about stuff like this since Friday.
Snap.
So now we're going to get into some Stephen King news, which you and I are both huge fans of Stephen King. You went on a whole entire new level of a turtle.
Dude, man, turtles, they're everywhere. Somebody brought it up the other day, and I was like, you don't understand. Don't go down this rabbit hole, man. I'm telling you, in the middle of all that, when my sister, who doesn't pay attention to nothing, came over and was like, do you remember this book? And pulls it out, and it was like Native American stories of Turtle Island. And I was like, what is that? And she was like, you don't remember this from when we were kids? And it was all about how the Native Americans used to call North America Turtle Island. And I was like, I'm done. I quit. We're all living in the Dark Tower.
But okay, so speaking of the Dark Tower,
are they out of their minds?
Okay, speaking of the Dark Tower, we're going to get into this because I'm geeked out over it. I've been saying this since it was announced that they were going to make a Dark Tower movie. I'm like, no, bad mistake. You need to make this a TV series. Give it to Amazon or give it to Netflix. At that time, Netflix was like the biggest thing. So basically, that was actually the king of streaming. So I'm like, give it to Netflix because of what they did with the Daredevil series. And now I'm like, give it to Amazon because of this or that. Give it to a company that has over $1 billion to spend, so that way you can get the effects, get everything right, and lo and behold, 5 or 6 years later, now we actually have this that broke. The Dark Tower TV series is in the works from the Haunting creator Mike Flanagan, and this is also coming from Variety. And
what?
Yep, Variety is reporting this. The Haunting of Hill House in Midnight Mass Creator Mike Flanagan and his producing partner Trevor Macy have required the rights to adapt Stephen King's The Dark Tower into a TV series. Flanagan and Macy revealed the news Thursday in an interview with Deadline, which dove more into the pair's recent decision to move their interpaired pictures overall deal with Netflix to Amazon. And this is what they had to say. Predating over deal with Amazon was acquired the rights to The Dark Tower, which, if you know anything about me, you know it has been my holy grail to reject for most of my life, Flanagan said. We actually have those rights carved out of Amazon, our Amazon deal. Wow, okay, I didn't know about that, which doesn't mean that they can't or won't get behind at some point. You don't know, but that's something we've been developing ourselves and are really passionate about finally getting it up on its feet at some point. And then Amazon previously had the rights to The Dark Tower themselves, and we're working on a project that only made it to the pilot phase. Those rights lapsed, and Flanagan and Macy picked them up before setting their pact with Amazon, which was announced December 1st. Variety has confirmed that the Dark Tower project was carved out of Flanagan and Macy's new deal at Amazon, though sources say that it doesn't necessarily mean that the series will end up on Prime Video, just that others do have a shot at it as well. Flanagan says he envisions the adaptation of The Dark Tower, for which he's already written a pilot script as a 5-season show, which is perfect if you're going to do book one.
Yeah,
and I wish they would actually call it book one and do it that way. Instead of saying season one, just say book one.
Oh, yeah, like Avatar? Oh, for sure. I could see that.
Or
My thing is, okay. I'm kind of shocked that you're not. I don't know. Keep going. Finish this before I get into it.
Okay. It's a 5-season show with 2 standalone feature films as follows.
There it is. There it is. And yes, I was going to say 5 seasons. I don't know if we can do it, but I was like, but if we throw in, just keep going. This is so smart. Okay.
As a 5-season show with 2 standalone feature films as follow-ups. And yes, he has spoken with King himself about plans for the adaptation, which is far from the first time Hollywood has tried to bring the King's work to the screen. The most recent being the 2017 film starring Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey. And this happened because I sent him a very, very detailed outline of what I wanted to do with it. Flanagan said it was in response to that he gave us the rights. A project like this, I wouldn't want to be involved in it at all if we were taking it in a direction that was going to be blasphemous to the Stephen King material.
This is like being very true. Nerd, like if this is your thing, like which it's our thing, very rarely this is like a Peter Jackson type thing where it's like, no, I love this and I want your approval and I want all of that before I even touch it, which is kind of shocking me right now, which it has to be somebody like this for the Dark Tower because it's nuts.
It's deep, it's dark, and it goes between sci-fi, it crosses the line between sci-fi, fantasy, and also a country western kind of vibe mixed in with this kind of thing too.
Yes.
So you have 3 different genres into one atmosphere, and it's a very atmospheric kind of comic and also atmospheric type of storytelling within a novel itself. Because I read the first 3 Dark Towers books. I haven't finished the Dark Towers yet.
Oh.
But the first 3 I really loved so far.
I love, and people hate on this one, I love Wizard and Glass. Is that the 3rd one?
No.
Which one is it? It goes. Nope. I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong. It's the Gunslinger, which I think I know a lot of people that enjoy just the Gunslinger, and they don't continue after that, and I don't blame them. But they love the Gunslinger, and I'm like, no, it's a jam. And then it's the drawing of the 3, and then the Wastelands. Yep.
Right. The Wastelands is the 3rd book.
I'm kind of because I have it. I'm kind of, this is where Marvel's pigeonholed themselves with things because they did the companion stuff. They did all of the comics and stuff. And it's like, you guys could have, if you guys didn't go so kid friendly, you guys might've been able to do something with that, but I didn't want them to. I was kind of worried about that. I was like, no, I really don't want you guys to.
Well, I was excited whenever the movie came out, getting pushed out, but then I saw the runtime. It was like an hour and some more minutes. I was like, nope, this movie's going to suck. I'm going to go see it anyways.
They weren't doing a sequel. And I was like, excuse me? Because
that's because it bombed.
Well, yeah. But I was just like, how you can't tell this story if you're going to tell the whole Dark Tower, not the gunslinger. That's why I keep waiting for somebody to say we're going to do the gunslinger, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't mean you're doing the whole Dark Tower. But when you say things like the Dark Tower, that's a whole other can of worms. Like, because I wouldn't blame them if they just said we're going to do the gunslinger and just do the Roland's one-off story and call it a day, and I wouldn't be mad at that. But ever since the It came out, and then what was the other one? Doctor Sleep. When I watched that, I was like, there's connections we can make here, and I hope they do it. And I think it's really smart. I just finished Rings of Power. I really liked it, but all I could think was, why didn't you guys cut this? I won't give anything away. Why didn't you guys cut this person's story out and just do 5 episodes here and then do a 2-hour special for 2 weeks? Like, what do we used to call them? The first It was
miniseries,
like a TV
miniseries
movie event. Yeah, a miniseries. Yeah. And just do that. And then I feel like, and I'm not saying like it was terrible or anything, but I feel like the show would be streamlined better and the pacing would be better if we weren't trying to do this 2 towers jumping all over the place. So when you said that they were going to do TV movies, I'm like, no, that's super smart, because then we could just do the series, big stuff, and then all the craziness that you kind of need but kind of don't, put that into TV movies. That I've been waiting for somebody to do that. I was like, why aren't people utilizing that more and just doing especially with how we do things now with DC, with Marvel, everything connects, series, TV shows.
Well,
why can't we do a movie?
You also made a good point a couple of years ago on your channel where basically Stephen King was like the OG of the sharing universe.
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to say, what did I say? Oh, God.
The reason why that still resonates within me is because I'm a huge Stephen King fan.
Oh yeah, he's
and
crazy.
So and now we actually have the Welcome to Derry TV show that's coming on HBO Max.
I was gonna say we were talking about this with something. What was it? And I'm like, no, we talked about that, but what was that? And I was like, did we talk about that on the channel, or did we just text about it? But I'm like, no,
we talked about
Welcome to Derry, because I was like, oh, you're not calling it Pennywise, and we're all focused on Pennywise. You're calling it Derry, and I'm like, there's a lot of things that happen in Derry.
Right.
And yeah, the Dark Tower gets, oh my God, if people thought Loki was like,
there's actually a little bit more in context too with this, but it just goes on to say it was in response to that he gave us the rights. A project like this, I wouldn't want to be involved in it. All if we were taking it in a direction that was going. Okay, so Interpret was previously under an overall deal at Netflix, while there's a company put out the multiple hit shows and the horror genre, including both The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, as well as The Midnight Mass and The Midnight Club. Flanagan was the creator.
I
like first 3 of the game.
Did I watch The Haunting of Hill House? I think I watched. That was on Netflix, right?
Right.
I liked that. I remember I did like that. And like I said, I appreciate anytime somebody comes out and is like, no, we triple checked with everybody around, and I genuinely love this thing. But I didn't know that Variety said it. Like the Dark Tower's always kind of been teased to be happening, and it's never happened. And there's a reason for that. Because
also too, that show would be so expensive to the point where you actually do have to probably fork out about $1 billion.
Oh yeah, this is. Do you think that they're trying to one up Rings of Power?
Well, here's the thing: if they are, let's say for instance that they are going with Amazon, all they're going to be doing is spanking their own selves.
Yeah, because I just know like people like to hear that even at work and stuff where people don't really care. They were like, oh, that's the most expensive show ever made. And people knew that. And so I'm like, this
is going to be the top of the Lord of the Rings to me.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think people, because I think when people think Stephen King, there's the big things that they think about. And that's awesome. That's fine. But until you get into the Dark Tower, it's like,
exactly.
What?
Well, you remember that? You remember that TV series that they had, Castle Rock?
Oh, I loved Castle Rock.
I liked the second season over the first season. Like, I didn't really care for anything that happened within the first season. So what I did was I watched about 4 episodes, canceled out on that, and then go into the second season. I loved it. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? They need to go on ahead and do an It prequel within this Castle Rock universe.
That's kind of crazy.
And then the next thing you know it, That show gets canned. I'm like, well, so much for my thinking. Then now it's like, oh, this is happening.
Yeah, and Skarsgård was running
Right.
around in that, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah,
and
Skarsgård was in
really
that
like
show.
Castle Rock, and I think that so many times, even studios have just been like Stephen King, the horror guy, that nobody thought to go like, oh, let's deep dive into this series. And now I feel like Castle Rock tried to. I feel like a couple things were. I feel like they were putting their toe in, but they weren't going to go full Dark Tower. And now I feel like well, obviously now they're going full Dark Tower, but I do feel like a couple things were like adjacent to it to see how fans would react and not make it full Dark Tower, but we're making it close to kind of the bones of what it could be.
Right. Okay, so we're going to get away from Stephen King and move into our final topic, and which was a surprise to me this evening whenever this happened. And I'm like, okay, you see Jackie Chan, you see Chris Tucker holding up the number 4, holding up 4. I'm like, okay, that's cool. You know, there's probably no context to it.
Right.
You know?
Or they're joking with us.
You know, they're just screwing with us because they've been teasing this since the third film was released.
Yeah.
But it's actually true. We are getting a 4th installment of Rush Hour 4. And it's actually going to tease a drama film he has directed for Women Red Sea Film Festival. Okay, Jackie Chan says Rush Hour 4 is in the works and teases drama film he has directed for women. It's called Red Sea. Okay, let me go on ahead and get some context into this. Deadline is reporting this. Jackie Chan made a rare onstage appearance at the Red Sea Film Festival Thursday, where he told fans that he is currently in talks to make a 4th Rush Hour movie. We're talking about part 4 right now, he told the festival crowd, adding that he was going to meet with the film's director this evening to discuss the script. He did not identify said director, but American filmmaker Brett Ratner directed all 3 previous versions. Ratner hasn't directed a film since 2014 and November 2017. 7 women, including actress Olivia Munn and Natasha Henstrid, accused the filmmaker of sexual harassment and misconduct, causing Warner Brothers to sever all ties with the producer-director with whom they had a lucrative deal. I didn't even know that was even a thing, because at that time I probably wasn't following it as heavy as I was today.
I remember because I think the only reason I think it was when stuff about Bryan Singer came out. And I think that kind of overshadowed that because it was just a bigger, I mean, they're both huge names, but I vaguely remember when that was happening. But I love Jackie Chan and I love Chris Tucker. But what's really strange is like the last week, they've been popping up on my feed a lot.
Really? They haven't popped up on mine. All I've been getting is like DC comic book news on my stuff. This is like the first time that
I thought it was strange. I was like, oh, this is and they're so adorable together. Like you can tell like these are pals now. And they obviously work very close together. But no, yeah, like on YouTube Shorts, Facebook, it was weird. And so when I was reading this, when you asked me to come on, I'm like, oh my God. And then I was like, well, they probably knew before us and knew to turn. But I was like, oh, that's kind of I'm happy for them. I hope this happens.
Okay, so I want to give a little bit more context, and then I'll tell you what I think,
too. You're fine.
Okay, so Chan starred in 3 Rush Hour films between 1998 and 2007 alongside comedian and actor Chris Tucker. The franchise follows a Hong Kong detective inspector who forms an unlikely relationship with a loudmouthed LAPD officer to solve a series of international crimes. The original Rush Hour grossed $244 million worldwide for a New Line Cinema and cinemated the Hong Kong-born Chan as an English-language action star. However, Chan said that he expected the film to bomb at the box office, and he had planned to quit Hollywood for good due to the lack of interesting roles he had been receiving. I tried so many times to go to Hollywood, but after that, I said no more Hollywood, because my English is not good. They're not my culture. They don't like this kind of action, he said. Chan said he only received scripts about East Asian detectives in America, but he was keen to expand his creative endeavors when the script for Rush Hour passed his desk. And there's also a little bit more I want to talk about. My manager said, look, there's a script, and it's called Rush Hour. I said, no. Hong Kong police, I'm not going to do it. He said, Jackie, why don't you try it last time? I said, okay, this is the last time. After the first film was released, Chan said he received a call from Ratner and Tucker who said, dude, were a huge success. We're 70 million in the first weekend. For me, I don't have to count of what 70 million is. I don't know the box office. I just know it certainly is a success. And then they made part 2 and part 3 he added. So my thing is this. Okay, I'm excited for a fourth Rush Hour movie. The third one I didn't really care for. I thought I loved the first 2 films. But what I would like for them to do is not focus on Jackie Chan's character anymore. Focus it on Chris Tucker. Because there's a story there that was never really fleshed out. And
I always like the line where they both bring up that their fathers were police.
Right. And hold on.
Like that.
Now listen to my pitch. You're gonna be Warner Brothers. I'll be doing my pitch to you. And I see you're getting your hair ready. So let's see. So I walk into your office. I said, Abby, I have an idea for Rush Hour 4. What I want to do is I want to take focus off of Jackie Chan's character and focus it the main point onto Chris Tucker's character because there's something more there. You're going to tell me, well, what's there? What's the concrete thing, right?
Right.
That's what you're going to say. So I'm going to say, well, look, his father got killed. Killed, I believe, in Chinatown or something to do with the not Chinatown. I'll take that back. It was just like basically right. Somebody knifed him in the back. We don't know who. We don't know where. But what if it was actually the triads? What if it was connected in with an old case that Jackie was working at Hong Kong or somewhere along that, and Jackie didn't even know that at the time? And now it's up to Jackie and him to solve his own father's.
Oh my God! And solve the murder.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
That will wrap up Rush Hour.
No, I like that, and I was going to say at first that can come off a bit cheesy, but once you start tying it in like in that way and solving, not just figuring out like, oh, we have this that ties us together. Like, no, we're gonna go solve what happened to my dad. I like that. I really like that a lot, John. That's slick. And honestly, back when 2020 and the pandemic and everything was happening, and Bad Boys 2. Remember when everybody was joking about like, what are we going to do with the Oscars? Like the only things that have come out are like Sonic and Bad Boys 2. And I was like, honestly, I wouldn't be upset if you gave Martin Lawrence an Oscar because I felt like he really emotionally hit in that. And it was really like, of course it was Bad Boys and it was over the top action, but I felt like Martin Lawrence was really bringing it. And I could see them in Rush Hour 4 really allowing them to dramatically act, and I would like to see that. And I like that, John. I really do like that a lot. I like that. I don't think that would come off, and I do think that these actors have the chemistry. I think they have the chemistry to pull it off. I think it wouldn't come off in a cheesy way if it's wrote correctly. I really like that.
Thanks, because here's the thing. I've been sitting in my Rush Hour 3 office since the movie ended, and I've been thinking about this idea since the movie ended. I'm like, what if we stop focusing on Jackie and focus on Chris Tucker, and also not only focus on Chris Tucker, but also have it linked to where his father died and was knifed in the back, and also has some kind of connection with Hong Kong, with the triads, or some type of thing in Chinatown itself in Los Angeles or something.
Right. Just something that
doesn't necessarily. Here's the thing, though. You don't necessarily have to have it tied into an actual character from Hong Kong,
right,
or something like that per se. You can have someone in the Los Angeles area as well, right, and stuff like that, and solve the crime that way. But it makes more cohesive sense to me if it is in Hong Kong and the character is essential in Hong Kong, and he happens to be living in Chinatown.
Right. No, and if people are watching this, you don't know that the triads are essentially like the mafia. So it's like it doesn't have to
the Yakuza.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a direct connection, but it's like, no, the triads are a thing that would connect back to China itself and Hong Kong itself. So it's like, it's broad enough that it's not, that's the part where I really like it. That's the part where it's not cheesy, because if you made it like, my secret evil twin did it, it'd be like, okay.
I hope they don't do that, because I'm tired of seeing that.
But it's like, if you make it a broad thing where it's like, no, that's a very possible scenario where it's like, no, that's a thing. So I like that. I do like that a lot, because I thought that, honestly, and not to keep comparing the two, but with the last Bad Boys, I thought that's where it kind of fell off, was when it was like, now there's a son, but he is running around over here. And it's like, okay, no, I'm with you, but you're kind of losing me in the But then again, it's Bad Boy, so I don't really mind,
Right.
But at the same
Because
time,
it's one of those things that right. It's just one of those things, just like this movie. You can turn your brain off for 2.5 hours and enjoy a comedy.
Also,
and I think you can. Right.
Rush Hour came out in 1998. That was that long ago.
Oh I remember when my friends and I were talking about 2 movies back then: the very first Blade movie, and Rush Hour.
Yep.
Those were the 2 movies.
Rush Hour, and Rush Hour was one of those movies where it didn't matter if you were 10 or 40. Everybody was watching Rush Hour, and everybody loved it. And I love Jackie Chan, and I love whenever he gets acknowledged because he has worked his ass off. And I feel like I feel like a lot of people don't know that sometimes, where it's like, no, this man has busted his ass. And so it's like whenever he gets acknowledged, I think
not only has he busted his ass, but he broke every single bone in his body.
Right. No, that's why
he literally broke his ass. I'm just saying.
Literally. Honestly, that's why in Shang-Chi, when they did the couple, like, there was a few iconic ones where he did like the coat grab and stuff like that. I was like, there it is. There it is. And then when I saw that his team worked on that and they were trying to pay homage to him, I was like, oh my God, that's so awesome. Because I immediately knew it. I was like, no, that's,
me too.
I know that. That's Jackie Chan. Like, and it's just so cool to see somebody that's worked that hard be acknowledged and have people like me and you go, oh no, I know that move. I know that move. And that's, and I love that. So to even hear that they're working together again and having a big production happen again, I love that.
Me too. And that's all the movie news that I have. So, it's always a pleasure to actually have you on here, Abby.
Oh God, thank you for having me. I'll let you know if work gets canceled again.
Yeah, please do. Because originally I was supposed to do a Wednesday season 1 spoiler review tonight.
Oh, but I haven't watched it yet.
It is so good.
I heard. Maybe I'll do that tonight.
But I was going to do that, but I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of news that broke. And then you told me work is canceled. I'm like, okay, I'm going to hurry up and make a thumbnail. I'm going to go do this. And we're going to do this show because I wanted to talk about this. So now that got changed over to Sunday at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And I'm also interviewing a director at 10 o'clock in the morning because he's from the UK.
Oh, my God.
And he has a little short film called The Electricity in Me.
Ooh.
And it's a single one monologue movie with a character that's just talking to the camera.
Ooh, that's interesting.
And it takes place in the 70s or 80s. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I was blown away with this short film. It only clocks in at like.
That sounds like one of those things where it's like when you have them doing something like that, you gotta. It's like on the edge of a knife, So it's like if you can nail that, that's hard to do. That's talent.
The actress in this movie is fantastic. I'm just gonna put it out there like that.
Where can I check it out?
Well,
not yet.
I think I have a link. I have a link of the little small clip in the review I did for that.
Okay.
So you guys can find that over there. It's going to be if you're looking on our YouTube channel and stuff like that, it's actually going to be in our playlist for the short film reviews that we review.
Oh, nice.
So I have.
It's always cool that you do that. I think that's all. I think it's really cool that you do that.
Thank you. And like I said, the cool thing about this one, though, is it zooms in on the character's face. And we're sitting across from the desk that she's facing. So it makes it look like that she's talking to us in this office space, and we're in that chair with her, sitting across from her. And she's talking about her story, about how she had to give up her baby for adoption. And how painful it was to watch her give up her baby for adoption.
This is giving me like Odyssey vibes of like, this is somebody sitting down and voicing a story that would be told again. You know what I mean? Like,
right. It's just in a single office space.
Tell it, and I like that.
It's in a single office space. It's a one-room scenario, and it does pan off to another small little thing, I believe, on the outside. But then it goes back over into the office.
No, that's interesting. That's cool.
But yeah, I'm going to be interviewing him, and let me go on ahead. I actually have my full schedule down.
Oh my God, good for you.
Because I have a full schedule lined up for next week for Christmas movies and things like that.
Oh my God, yeah. Whoops.
Okay, so I'm not going to do any shows on Monday and Tuesday because I already have my stuff stacked as is. So yesterday too. Okay, the 14th, I have Alex coming on.
Woo!
We're going to be doing Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. And that's going to be at 9 o'clock Central Time and 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Time for that one. 15th, I have Grumpy Old Men with Beth from the Made for Movie TV podcast.
That's a jam.
And that's at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Then the 16th, I had the Family Man review with the Look at Back Cinema podcast. So Zoe and I did a Candyman review together. You can actually find that on our playlist for the horror movie reviews, or you can find that on the audio podcast for that. Beth has been on my show several times reviewing movies, so you can find her around my channel or on the audio podcast. As a matter of fact, we actually reviewed another short film the other night that clocks in about 21 minutes, so you guys can check that out. And then on the 17th, I'm going to be interviewing somebody else from the UK.
God, you've been really raking it in with the interviews. I really love that Coleman Domingo one. That was great.
Thank you. That means so much to me on what you told me earlier about how much you and your mom enjoyed that.
Oh, for sure. And I love him.
I love Coleman. Coleman is such a gentle person and such caring.
He brings like a calmness. Just his aura is just calm. Where I just feel like I could go to the spa with you.
Well, you know how jacked up I am right now, right? And you saw how like I was like kind of
no, but you're so welcoming, and it shows, it comes across. People are comfortable being themselves with you. Like there's no wall up.
Exactly. I am who I am. If you can't be yourself around me, then what's the point? You know?
Right.
But okay, so at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time, and this is actually going to be on the 17th, which is a Saturday, I'm going to have Martin Delaney on the show. He played in movies such as Zero Dark 30. He played in what's that one? That musician movie, right? You know what I'm talking about,
yes.
Abby? It has Woody Harrelson in it.
Oh my God.
Hold on, I actually have it right here. He played in Now You See Me 2.
That's it, The Magician. Yeah, I was gonna say Now You See Me and Now You See Me 2. I was gonna say there's more than one of them. Yep.
Right. And he also played in one.
I liked him.
I did too. I liked the first two. But he was in Now You See Me 2, and then he was also in Outlander, one episode of Outlander.
I never got caught up on Outlander, but I know people love it.
I know people love it too, and I'm actually one of those people that like it, but I never went back and checked it out or anything.
Is that the one that is it on? Is it on something I don't have? Is it on Showtime?
I think it's on Netflix.
Oh, really? Then I
believe so. Don't quote me because right. But anyways, that's everything that you need to know here at Movie Lovers Unite. Thank you again, Abby. I do appreciate you doing this. So, with further ado, guys, that's going to be it for the show. I do thank everybody that tuned in watching this, and always until next time. Bye-bye.